So what I realised during that experience, and by the way, I've meditated every day since, so it's a long time I've been meditating, and I would never not do it because that is what I use as my anchor. And that's what I'd like to talk about briefly here, is that inside us, we can actually anchor. We can learn to anchor into a place that's really deep and beautiful and solid inside us. And this place is not changeable like the external world. It's very stable. It's solid. It's very real. And it's very, very safe. And I know for myself, I really needed to feel that safety. And as most of us do. The other thing I found that it's a really loving place. And we know in our society, most of us need a really good dose of self-esteem. It's something that's very lacking in our learning, in our teaching, in our world, even with our children. They start off when they're very young, really loving themselves and being very comfortable, but it only takes a few years for that to start diminishing, which is a terrible shame. So really learning to tap into that deeper part of ourselves at an early age is really a wonderful gift. For most of us, we have to go through the big crash first before we stop looking at the external world and the people in it for our solution, and we start to go within. So when we have a crisis and we're really not coping, the thing that happens is we start to really let go of things around us because we can't cope. And it brings us inside, it brings us to a state of this moment, because we can't handle, when you're in some sort of a crisis or a breakdown, whether it's very minor or very large, we can't handle a whole lot of things at once. So the gift in that is it brings us into present time, that we become in the now, well, we're living more in the now moment. And in that moment is where the gifts are. We start to go internal because we can't cope. And it feels like a breakdown. And certainly it's tough. I'm not going to deny that. However, the gift is that as you go, you're having this breakdown and you go internal, you start to really search deeply, more deeply than you ever have, inside yourself. And as you do that, there's different parts of you that will be revealed, that will actually rise up and show themselves to you the more you look there. And that part of you is the part that doesn't change. It's the part that is really intelligent, it's wise, it's strong, it's really powerful, and it's also extremely loving. But it's not a gushy sort of love. It's a strong, stable love. I think we think about love as more romantic love, and this is not the type of love. I call it spiritual love, because it's the strongest love I've ever felt in my life. It's stronger than we can have on this planet. It's an incredible love. So learning to anchor into this deep part of ourselves, this internal part, into this spirit or this intelligence, this life intelligence that lives in there, which has many names, many labels that we give it. And it's important not to get too hung up on the label that we give it. We could call it universal consciousness. We can call it higher intelligence, higher self, God self, God energy, Christ consciousness, super consciousness. We can call it many things. But we can anchor into this particular part inside us. And it's really important to start doing that, particularly if you're not feeling right or if you're in need of healing on any level. And that means emotional healing, mental healing, or physical healing. It isn't the human that does the healing. It's this higher presence inside us. Once we start to anchor into that and call it in, and not look for our answers or our stability externally, but look inside, that we can actually find this incredible place. And then we get to realise that we are so much more than we thought we were. Incredible. We are so much more than we thought we were. And when I actually tapped into this place, I was amazed. It is so beautiful, and it's in every single person. So when I think about people in crisis, whether it is physical, emotional or mental crisis, or jobs or relationships or whatever it might be, I think life has really planned for these things to happen. I think we're so loved by life that when a crisis comes up, it's just life saying, you're going the wrong way, come this way, look inside you. And if we don't, the crisis usually becomes even bigger. It's like a 4x2, much, much bigger, over the head, had a few of those in my life, and it's saying, come this way, look in here, because the universe or God or the light or whatever you want to call that thing that is so incredible, so beautiful, that light, it loves us so much. We are so loved. It is saying, come here. You're off track. I'm going to show you the right track. So all those players that come into our life that mirror back to us, or we feel they're giving us a hard time and life would be easier without them, they're actually part of the gifts of life that take us internally. Because we are loved, they're just the players. They're the way that we can monitor how we're going in life. They're part of the plan. There is really a higher plan, and even though we don't really understand it down here on earth, we end up trusting it in the end as long as we can anchor internally. So it really is the way God planned it, or the way life planned it.
Why can't we be humble like the good Lord said? He promised to exalt us, but no is the way. How men be so greedy when there's so much left? All things are God-given, and they all have been blessed. That's the way God planned it. That's the way God wants it to be. Not your heart be troubled. Let mourning, sobbing cease. Learn to help one another and live in perfect peace. If we just be humble, like the good Lord say, yeah. He promised to exalt us, but love is the way. That's the way God planned it. That's the way God wants it. That's the way, yeah.
great southern sounds of Melbourne. 88.3 Southern FM.
Welcome back. This is Christine Hart-Savage and you're listening to Mind, Body, Heart and Soul. That was Billy Preston with That's the Way God Planned It. And I really do believe that is the way God planned it. So when we're having all this strife in our lives, we are so loved that God is, or the universe, or that higher intelligence is showing us, come this way, look within. One of my clients that came to me fairly recently, and I'll call her Lisa. Now, Lisa came and she has suffered with panic attacks since she was 15 and she is now 44. And she had a few things happening in her life, and she's got to a state where she was just staying inside the house where it was nice and safe because she was really panicking about panicking. And she's got 3 children, and her greatest dream is to be able to get on a train with her children and go up to the country and take their bikes and to ride on some of the bike tracks. And I'm not sure I can't remember whether her husband was included in this bike ride or not. Maybe he was. And to just ride around with the kids. And you know that when we suffer from anxiety, it's just about doing those little things that make life, all those little pleasures that make life up, that make it happy. So for a long time, that's 29 years that Lisa has been suffering from panic attacks and anxiety. So she was feeling quite desperate. So what we did, other than the breathing, breath awareness and the deeper breath work, so she could release some of the stress and anxiety sitting in her cellular level, is that I taught her about anchoring. And as I mentioned, what we tend to do is anchor externally, which is exactly what Lisa had been doing as well. And, anchoring can also be, externally, can be taking some sort of drug, a prescription drug that helps us along. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as it's a Band-Aid and it's not forever, because there's other ways to do it. So I talked to Lisa about anchoring and what that meant and how she could anchor to this intelligence inside her. So the next time Lisa had the feeling of panic coming up when she was at home on her own, she immediately held on to that anchor. And she said it really helped. So in her mind, she was imagining that she was hanging on to this anchor. And then she moved it internally like we had spoken about. And she had a literal picture of a literal anchor inside her. And she had it through the torso of her body. And this anchor, and I said to her to get it to radiate light. So it was really strong and it was luminous. So she was doing that. And she said that anchor really, really worked. It took her focus from feeling anxious and external thinking and feeling to internal thinking and feeling, just focusing on that.